All right, so we're going to dive into a pretty wild idea today. What if a 1600-year-old philosophy from the East actually holds the secret to why modern AI is, well, failing so badly? This is Silicon Samsara, and it's a trip right into the heart of our crazy digital world.
So let's just get right to it. I mean, we are all swimming in AI hype, but the reality, it's messy. So what's the deal? Why is this technology, with all the money and all the brainpower being poured into it, getting things so spectacularly and so publicly wrong?
You want a perfect example? Look no further than Google's big AI launch in May of 2024. Someone asked it how to keep cheese from sliding off a pizza, and it just confidently recommended adding non-toxic glue to the sauce. I mean, come on. That's not just a small mistake. It's a hilarious, fundamental break from reality.
And it didn't stop there. Oh no, the same AI, with a totally straight face, suggested that you should eat rocks. It even said geologists recommend it. And the punchline? The source was The Onion, you know, the satire website. The AI literally couldn't tell a joke from a fact.
So what is the common thread here? To really get to the bottom of these AI hallucinations, we need a blueprint for how its mind works. And you're not going to find it in a coding manual. No, the best one we've found is over 1.5 millennia old, coming straight from Buddhist philosophy.
So let's start by looking at the basic architecture of these digital minds. We're going to use this analogy that our source material calls the storehouse and the ocean.
Okay, this right here, this is the key that unlocks the whole thing. What AI engineers today call the latent space is basically a mirror image of a concept from the 4th century called Alaya-vijnana, or the storehouse mind. It is an absolutely incredible parallel.
So what exactly is this storehouse mind? Well, think of it like a deep subconscious layer of consciousness. It's not your personal mind. It's more of a neutral, passive collector of everything. All the seeds of past actions, good and bad. It doesn't judge, it just stores. Sound familiar? It should.
The ancient Lankavatara Sutra gives us this beautiful metaphor. It describes the storehouse as a vast ocean, right? The surface can be chaotic, full of waves and activity, but the deep, dark abyss of the ocean, it stays still, unmoved. That is a startlingly accurate way to describe an AI's latent space.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. The AI's latent space, that's the ocean. It's this massive, quiet repository of all potential. All the data it's trained on, every article, blog post, and forum comment, those are the waves on the surface. And what makes a wave? You do. Your prompt is the wind that kicks up a specific response from those depths.
Okay, so if the AI's mind is a giant storehouse, how does information actually get in? This brings us to a really cool concept that explains not just how AI learns, but how it learns all of our biases. The process is called perfuming the machine.
Right, so the ancient term for this is Vasana, which literally means perfuming. And the idea is actually pretty simple. If you leave a seed next to a flower, eventually that seed absorbs the flower's scent. In the same way, every action, every bit of data, leaves a tiny scent or residue in that storehouse consciousness. And over time, all those scents build up and form deep-seated tendencies.
And here's where it gets really wild. This ancient idea of perfuming is a perfect description of how AI actually learns, through a process called backpropagation. The AI just makes a guess, checks if it's right, and then makes a tiny, microscopic adjustment. And it does this billions and billions of times. Each little adjustment is a scent, and over time, those scents build up into what we call its biases.
Now, this is the most critical part to understand. The AI's storehouse mind is completely neutral. The math doesn't care about truth or lies or kindness or hate. A scientific fact from an encyclopedia and a racist slur from some dark corner of the internet are just data points. They both perfume the system with equal weight. And that is where the trouble really starts.
So this whole process, it leads us directly to the problem of hallucinations. And now we can start to see how these aren't just random glitches, right? They are the logical outcome of the system itself, a feedback loop of error.
Let me be very, very clear about this. AI hallucinations are not a bug. They're a feature. It is the inevitable, structural result of what happens when you perfume a system with the entire messy, contradictory, beautiful, and often just plain wrong digital world that we humans have created.
And you can actually map out exactly how an error is born. In Buddhist philosophy, this is called dependent origination, this chain of cause and effect. And it maps perfectly to our glue pizza example.
See, it starts with ignorance. The AI ingests a Reddit joke as fact. That leads to a formation, a statistical link between pizza and glue. And so on down the chain until that bad advice is out in the world, getting shared and reinforced. This leads to a truly nightmare scenario that researchers call model collapse. Just imagine a future where AIs isn't trained on human data anymore, but on the flawed, synthetic garbage produced by other AIs. It's the snake eating its own tail, a downward spiral where reality itself degrades. It's a true digital samsara, a cycle of suffering, but for data.
So all of this brings us to the most critical question of all. When these systems inevitably cause harm, who is responsible? Who takes the blame for an action that had no intention, no mind behind it?
The source material gives us this incredibly powerful concept for this, the moral crumple zone. Okay, so think of a car's crumple zone. It's literally designed to be destroyed in a crash to protect the passengers, right? Well, in the world of AI, the human user is often put in that exact same position, structurally designed to absorb all the legal and moral blame when the system fails, protecting the creators of the system.
And this isn't just theory. Let me tell you about a real-world case, Mata versus Avianca. A lawyer used ChatGPT for legal research, and the AI, it just made stuff up. It invented fake legal cases out of thin air. Now, you can't punish the AI, right? It's just code. But the lawyer, he got sanctioned by the court. His career was ruined. He became the moral crumple zone.
So the point is this, and it's a deep injustice. The algorithm creates the harm, but the human is forced to absorb all the blame. The system is protected while the individual gets crushed.
So, if this is the problem, what's the solution? How do we design a path forward where responsibility actually lands where it's supposed to?
The way forward requires a fundamental shift in our thinking. We have to move away from this current model of individual blame, where we basically tell the user, hey, it's your job to fact-check the multi-trillion-dollar machine. No. Instead, we need a model of shared responsibility, something called a fiduciary duty. And what that means is that the developers, the architects of this digital ocean, are held responsible for the seeds they plant in it and for the waves that it creates.
And so we come full circle. This ancient blueprint, it doesn't just diagnose the problem. It actually gives us a prescription. The ancient word satyanana means intention or volition. And really, that's what this is all about. The future of AI isn't just a coding challenge, it's a human one. The responsibility for what happens next, it's not in the silicon, it's in us.